Today's video is going to be about virtual desktops or workspaces and also activities under KDE. So this is really going to be for those people that have a bit of OCD or want to have their sort of desktop well organized for productivity and keep things clear. It's not really for those that want to just chuck all their icons onto one desktop and just have a crowded desktop with everything in one place. Although the video is mostly focused on Linux users, the concepts are going to be the same for Windows and macOS users. So, if you're interested in just having a look at what you could maybe use a virtual desktop for, this video may be well worth looking at. And then just bearing in mind too, that I'm not going to be doing a detailed how to do this. There's lots of videos available on that. I'm going to be talking very much around why would you want to use virtual desktops or workspaces, and then just sort of demonstrate some of what's really possible with it that could sort of be of interest to you. So what I'm actually just spinning here, by the way, is these are virtual desktops, and in KDE, you've got quite a nice sort of a cubed view of your virtual desktops. This is not really what you're going to use. It just looks nice. It's nice eye candy. You'll see it actually can play. That video is not playing at the moment, but it can actually play a live video as well. But I think let's start off with why would you want to use virtual desktops? So typically one of the cases is going to be when you've only got one monitor or two monitors. Now I've got three monitors. This is going to be quite a confusing video for me to do because I've got virtual desktops activated and I've got activities activated. So, you'll see along here, this is a very messy taskbar at the bottom. It's not normally how I'd use it. In fact, I won't even have these on the taskbar because I'll just use the shortcut keys to quickly flick between what I'm looking for. This is just to show you where we actually are. So you'll see I've got a desktop called main. You can just see a little blue outline over there. There's desktop 2, there's desktop 3, and I've got activities called gaming, main, and recording. So I've technically got here, I think, 9 different screens. I'm only recording on my rightmost screen. So I've just got to keep in mind that's what you're seeing. But if you've only got 1 or 2 monitors, the point is you can have it sort of 3 deep or 3 high or whatever the case is. The case certainly for having just one monitor or screen is that you can have multiple screens and quickly change between them. So I think that's obviously going to be quite a good use case, but I'll explain also why maybe for multiple screens it's useful. You get separated logical views of related activities. So typically you're going to have something like, say, a productivity set, and maybe like I'm doing video recording, I'll have another set of screens that I'm using just for video recording, and I can flip between the two of them and just keep them completely separate. Or it could be development, or it could be anything else. It's just separating what you're doing from other activities. The other, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, was things like focus and productivity, were things like OCD versus clutter. It's also a question of just separating and clarifying, and I'll show you an example of this just now when I show you how, for example, activities can be separately viewed, as well as favorites, to give you a very clean sort of interface of just what you're actually working for. You're not going to even have the same menu necessarily that you see. You can also jump straight to a view and activity versus alt tabs. And this is quite an important case because this is true whether you've got 3 screens or 1 screen. Alt tabbing, and you've got, say, 7 applications open, you're going to have to tab through all of them, or open and then sort of select from there. The point with activities and desktops is that you've got them already separate. If one is your main desktop, you'll say use Control F1. If you want to go quickly, say, to your gaming or to your recording stuff, you'll just do Control F2 or Control F3 and you jump straight to it. There's no having to alt tab through everything to find the applications that you're busy working with. So that also separates your view very nicely. Another one is not really a primary reason, but work versus private. So you might want to keep your work stuff separate from your private stuff. You can have some browsers and other things open for your non-work sort of activities, and then you might have your work activities on another whole different view, even if you've got 3 screens. Yes, what I said here about the boss was that typically, if your boss happened to walk by, you could just do Control F2 and jump straight to the work screens, and you'd have everything open, your Excel spreadsheet, your presentations, your other things you're busy working on. So that's another reason, really. And then another one could also be presentation desktop versus normal work desktop. I don't know if you've seen some people doing presentations at seminars and that sort of thing, and then they've got this massively busy desktop behind what they're all busy with and so on. Well, again, you could use your Control F2 to go to your presentation mode, and then you've got a specific desktop and sort of a clean environment just to do your presentation from, versus your messy desktop that you use for your normal work. And then likewise, you can also look at your social messaging versus keeping your research and your study views as two separate views or more, 3 views or whatever the case is. You may also want to do things like playing of a game in full screen and then being able to look at reference and other guides, maybe on whether it's a website or a PDF or something else. The reason for this is you don't have to leave full screen mode of the game. So the game won't be interrupted or paused or anything. It'll stay in its full screen mode as if that screen is open in front of you. You can consult your reference guide and pop back into the game again. And in fact, this you'll see here was a presentation that was running in full screen, and I could rotate the windows and I can jump to things and I can come back to it and it'll still be in full screen mode without leaving that. And then just things like maybe normal productivity environment versus say recording in the streaming environment. You could keep the two again completely separate, or a normal productivity versus a coding in and develop environment. There's lots of scenarios I think you could make use of virtual desktops. And what I've said at the end here is for those that I don't really want to change, I'm doing it fine the way I'm doing it. Well, it does take practice to form a new habit. You do need to get used to those shortcut keys. As most command line fans will say, often your shortcut keys are going to be the quickest way to do something. You just need to get familiar with maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and then you can actually do quite a lot very quickly, and you can jump straight to what you're doing without having to use the menus and so on the bottom. Well, those are perfectly easy and usable to use. The other thing I want to cover is this comparison between virtual desktops, workspaces, and activities. I've watched quite a few videos and people were struggling to, well, I was also struggling to understand what activities actually are, because it mainly appears in KDE. Whereas virtual desktops and workspaces are common to all distros, including things like Windows and macOS. They're going to obviously implement it slightly differently to the way maybe Linux has implemented it. But I thought this will be a very useful slide to just contrast and go through, because it'll give a better understanding of which maybe you want to use. Especially if you're a KDE user, you might very well want to maybe just make use of activities. Don't use both, or you can use both, but the point is it can get a bit confusing if you have too many screens and desktops and activities all open. You're really defeating the object of the exercise. So I've already said there, the stuff in this column really you're going to see on all Linux desktops. The side is going to be mostly just KDE. On both sides, they can all be named. And I did show that in the beginning of the video as well there. I've named those desktops as well as activities. Just better than saying desktop 1, 2, 3 or activity 1, 2, 3. The other thing is that generally speaking, unless you've saved your session, when you log in, you normally start off with a clean desktop, your taskbar, and a couple of other things. What you're going to do to make use of virtual desktops is most distros have by default often got 3 active virtual desktops already, but if not, you'd activate them and name them and so on. What you do is you'd open an application and you can push it or move the window to either one desktop or to be available in all desktops. And I will show an example of that just a little bit later on. But that's typically how you will use virtual desktops, or you'll go to desktop 2 and just open the application there and it'll stay there. You can again push it from there if you want to, but that's typically how the virtual desktop scenario works. You're really pushing your stuff across into your virtual desktops. Under activities, it's got a couple of extra functions. Like some people describe it as virtual desktops on steroids. It remembers certain linked activities and relating to files and applications and so on. So you can get things to appear at any time in the future. They will appear in those activities that you've created. Then the other thing is how these things exist. So virtual desktops, applications and so on, they will carry on and stay existing as long as your login session lasts. If you've logged out and re-logged in again, you have to start those apps and just push them across again, unless you've got a saved session. That's possibly what might work for you. But a unique thing with activities is you can actually stop or suspend an activity, and then you can just restore it on the fly. So I've tested this a little bit. How it really works is that you could have, say, the file manager open, you could have LibreOffice open and one or two other things. If you suspend it and you just restart it, it starts up within about a second or so. It starts up again, that activity. It literally suspends and takes everything out of memory. So LibreOffice and everything has ceased to work. You could use this maybe even for games or non-gaming things for when you want to play a game. And it restores it. The issue here, though, very much is logging out and logging back in or rebooting the machine. All that seems to restore is actually the Qt native KDE applications, such as Dolphin Browser and Kate Editor and that sort of thing. I've noticed some of the other applications doesn't seem to survive. So it's not perfect, but it is something quite interesting and unique around activities, especially if it's suspending. Then the other thing that you'll see quite a difference on as well is that virtual desktops keep the same wallpaper, icons, and widgets. So if you put one on, it is sort of across and available in all your sessions. An exception is possibly a type of wallpaper called wallpaper or wallpaper, I'm not sure how they pronounce it. It's a special wallpaper which you can define within it. You can define desktop backgrounds per virtual desktop. So it's actually quite a powerful thing. And I can just show it quickly. And I can also show you the difference between when I switch on those virtual desktops, how some of them you are seeing the different background or not. But on the other side here under activities, again, what was unique to activities is you can set unique wallpapers for each activity as well as screen. So it's quite nice because as you're switching activities, you can get a feel for, oh, this is my gaming wallpaper, or this is my, recording wallpaper, whatever the case is. Same goes for icons and widgets. And then similarly here under menu favorites, where you've got on to open your menu, you can see various favorites. The same favorites exist across virtual desktops, but you can actually set different ones for the task manager bar, at the bottom of the screen over there. You can say that certain ones appear only, or you can filter it per virtual desktop, and then that's all you're going to see, which also keeps things a bit tidy. Well, again, on activities, you can set menu favorites per activity, which again keeps it nice and clean and sort of focused on that activity. And you've also got the task manager per activity, like on virtual desktops. So typically, you've just normally got one set of virtual desktops. You don't have multiple sets. So you're going to have virtual desktop 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And on activities, you can actually have unique virtual desktops per activity. So if you don't have activities, you're going to have, say, virtual desktop 1, 2, 3. If you've got two activities, first activity can have virtual desktop 1, 2, 3. And then the second activity can have a different virtual desktop 1, 2, 3. Call it 4, 5, 6. Can get quite busy. So like I said, be careful how many you add. The other thing is by default, virtual desktops remember sort of everything that you do. And I'm talking about your operating system. In other words, what files did you open? What browser did you open? That sort of thing. That's the normal default. Activities have got something interesting that you can actually also set an activity itself as private, which means it'll forget everything that was done in that activity. So, versus your other activities that you're busy with. So just something also of interest there. I've showed you that sort of slick switch thing with the 3D cube for virtual desktops. Well, at the moment, that's only for virtual desktops. When it comes to activities, you just have to use the shortcut keys or the sort of activity picker. And there is a slight stutter I've noticed the very first time that you use it, mainly because it's probably loading the activities. Because remember, it's actually switching out wallpapers, widgets, all sorts of things when you're using activities. But after that, it sort of works fairly slickly, I would say. The other thing that's interesting with virtual desktops, and it's unique to virtual desktops, is it's not just desktops arranged next to each other, 1, 2, 3, sort of horizontally left and right of each other. You can also set desktops to be in rows. So you could have 3 wide and 3 or 2, say 2 rows high. Why that's important is because virtual desktops have also got a function to switch left, left, right, right, between your desktops, and up, down, or whatever the case is, to navigate between your desktops. Unlike activities, like I said, you just got switching. You don't have activities arranged in things sort of like columns and rows. So if you find this is a better way for you to work and switch between things, with left, right, up, down, keeping a mental image of your desktops, well, then maybe virtual desktops is better for you. And then the last thing that I really sort of picked up as a slight difference again is that folders and files and so on are all common across virtual desktops. But when it comes to activities, this is another specific strength of it. You can define files and folders either common to all activities or one activity or more activities. So something could be in 2 activities and another one is in 1 activities. And I'll show you in the moment when we get to the activities desktop, you'll see how that filtered sort of view is actually very useful. I think let me show some examples and then we can come back to slide number 3, which is going to be some slightly more advanced sort of usage around activities and desktops. So now my challenge, of course, is to remember where I am and what screen I'm on. I'm going to go to the recording screen, which should be this one. Okay, so I've got it right. So that was my quick cut to the recording screen. And if I go back to main, by the way, you should still see that in full screen. Yeah, there it is. So that is switching activities. And you'll see here that these are 2 unique widgets that I've got here for this activity. This is my recording activity. So I've put an Op Studio desktop background on, also to remind me what activity I'm in if I don't have this along the bottom here. You'll see that I've only got these sort of 2 icons at the moment. I've got the 2 widgets, and I've got this is a special type of folder that filters on the activity. So let's just have a look at it quickly, because this is what you're going to see changing. You'll see the location here normally would be something like, say, your desktop folder view, if you wanted to keep a view of your, your icons on the desktop, or you'd have a custom location, videos, or whatever the case is. But I've got it set to files linked to the current activity. So the moment you've right-clicked on a file or folder and said, link this to recording, it'll automatically pop up in this view. And if I remove it, it'll disappear from this view. So it's a nice sort of a virtual view. And I've given it a custom title over there saying activity recording. Well, you can set things like, I haven't got icons for this actually. So you've got a couple of other options here, like a background and this and that and so on. Just to bear in mind, I'm not using the standard Plasmoid widget for folder. I'm using one called transparent folder, and that's why it's got this transparent appearance over here. You'll see if I right click on any one of these files and I go down here to activities, I can unlink it from this recording activity. I could link it to gaming or to the main activity, or that's just unlink again over there. But that is typically how you would change it. And you can actually click on these and interact with them. So that is that. So that's an example. For example, if I had these bunch of files or icons or links, whatever the case is there in this activity view, you could just double click to open them. So it could be, opening a web browser page specifically for this activity. Something that you do fairly regularly, for example. But, I can show here, for example, on this file as well. You can go to activity, you can link it to the current one, which would now be recording or gaming or main, so on over there. So, that is pretty well much the activity view. And as I change now we are in recording view at the moment. We were on main. If I go to, say, the gaming view, you'll notice immediately it's got its own desktop wallpaper. You'll see the icons are different over here on the taskbar. For example, it's got Steam Games by default over there. Forgot to show you the menu, but if you open this one, well, you'll see Steam Games again and just a few options like browser and so on in it. Its activity, that folder that's filtered on activity, has also changed. It's got my gaming screenshots, it's got my Steam folder, it's got Obsidian Notes that opens up directly from my Red Dead Redemption notes, Hell Let Loose, Game Reference, SnowRunner tips, and this would actually open up the browser showing the maps for SnowRunner. So I've got everything sort of together in one place there for that. I think let's just check the desktop views quickly. If we go back to main, well, actually, you know what, you'll see as well, although there are different desktop screens, it's only showing one when it does the cube view for some reason. So this is activity main, you can see. So we know we're in the activity main, and we're actually on the main virtual desktop as well. Now these ones, I think if I go to desktop 2 over here, that was where the video was playing, you'll see I have got a different screen background. So this is that wallpaper, the wallpaper that was being used to show the different screen backgrounds. But if I go to, say, a different activity, so that I can show you the default desktops really, you'll see now as I'm clicking here at the bottom here, that's Virtual Desktop 3. I go to Virtual Desktop 2, identical appearance, nothing has changed. Virtual Desktop 1, nothing has really changed. Okay, I've got this stuck onto Virtual Desktop 1, but again, if I say here, you can right-click on any application that's open, and you can say move it to all desktops, or move it just to Desktop 2 or 3. I've got it on Desktop 1 at the moment. So if I say now to all desktops, and you now switch to Desktop 2, there it stays there on the left-hand side. So typically, I'd keep this open on all my desktops usually. And then the same thing goes for activities. It's exactly the same thing. I've got it active for all activities, but I could have said, no, just move it to one of the other activities, or just show it in, say, main and recording. You could tick independently. So that's sort of how you would do activities, or make something visible for activities. And I have showed also for desktop over there. I can just show as well in a plain, just remember out of that. Let's just say this file over here. It's the same thing over there. There's your activities. That's where you would actually link it to either the current or the other activities. And if you've got that folder filter view, it's going to appear for you in that view. Likewise, on the menu, if you take, this is your favorites at the moment, you'll see their favorite apps. If you say right click on this, you could show it in favorite on all activities or just specific activities. Remember I said that activities can have favorites set for the menu, but you will see there's not an option here for virtual desktops. Got an open application over here. So if I look again, you can say move it to, all or to a specific desktop. I think I can open, say, let me just open something else. Let's just say Firefox maybe. Okay, I think I've got Firefox open on another screen, maybe, I'm not sure. But Firefox is open now. If I right click on it here on its application, it's an open application. Again, we've seen the activity stuff, but now you'll see there is an option there as well to move to desktop. And that's going to also then show up on your desktop, in your virtual desktop's taskbar there. Another way you can also check is on your taskbar, you can configure it. And there's an option over here under behavior, show only tasks from current screen, current desktop, from current activity. And you can also play around with that a bit to just show visibly what is open in that specific screen or virtual desktop session or whatever the case is. That also helps sort of tidy things up a little bit. And I think just before we go on to the last advanced features, there are just one or two other sort of shortcut views that are quite useful. I don't have it set up at the moment to go left, right, up, down on my desktop, virtual desktops, because I've just got the three next to each other, such as Meta W or Super Key W. That will get you this virtual desktops overview, and you can actually drag these apps to different desktops if you wish. We don't have anything running at the moment. Let's just say recording, and let's just open, say, maybe Dolphin browser, and I can just show you how you can stop this. One way is just to bring up the activity switcher. Remember, this is not a feature that you've got on virtual desktops. It is the stopping or the pausing of an activity is unique to activity. So you could see now we've got, I'm on the recording one at the moment. There it is. You'll see it's got an option over here on the bottom right saying stop activity. And usually, yes, there we go. It stops the activity. You'll see it shows up there at the moment as a stopped activity. And you'll see at the bottom here, it's disappeared. There's just gaming and there's main. And if you had to switch now between activities, those are the only two activities that you're actually seeing at the moment. So I can go back to that selector window where it showed you it stopped. You can either click here to open it, or you can just hit its shortcut key. And let me just show you the shortcut key, how quick it is actually. I think it was Alt F3. That I have the wrong shortcut. You see, I might have the wrong shortcut. Let me try Alt F2. Here we go. That is how quickly it's brought it back up and, brought this application back into the foreground and active again. So, that's quite an interesting way of being able to suspend things and then reanimate or resume them again later on. And I'll show the other way we can do it now when we just go look at that last slide now about the more advanced usage. Just remember, see, this is the problem with multiple desktops, and where was I? It's one of my desktops, wasn't it? Oh, it's under main, and I think it is desktop 3. There we go. So this is the last slide. I just wanted to explain some of the more advanced sort of usage that I just picked up while I was looking through things. So there wasn't sort of a way that I saw, a default way where you could just right click and set any application that when you open it, it jumps straight into a particular virtual desktop or an activity. But there are one or two or three ways that are worth exploring. I haven't actually done this myself, but I've seen that definitely it seems to work. One is an application called Devil's Pie. There's also a thing called XDo Tool, which works very well for X11, maybe not so hot for Wayland. And then there's also a KDE configure special application settings, where you can right click on a window and you can go to its configuring its special application settings. All three of these work around matching of a window name. So when a window name is, say, Brave browser or Firefox browser, you can get it to link it to a particular activity or desktop and open it in that screen. Or in that view, sorry, should I say. So that is three different ways of doing essentially the same sort of thing. Is a way to do it. It's just that if you want to open it and move it, individually, you want to maybe have everything pre-set up to work that way. Obviously, if they are in those views, then they're going to open in those views anyway. But I'm just saying if you're opening it from sort of cold. Then the other thing that was sort of interesting for me as well is, so if you open a browser in, say, desktop 1, and then you open Firefox again in desktop 2, it opens it up as a new window. And your danger really is that if you close one or both or shut the system down, unless you restore all your sessions, the danger is you might lose all your open tabs, especially across the two different sessions. So one solution to that is actually to open Firefox with different profiles. Normally you just use one profile, a default profile, and that's where the confusion comes. So both Firefox and Chrome allow for the same sort of thing. With Firefox, in the menu or the icon that's used to execute the application, you'd add a -p and the profile name, or you'd use -profile and the path to where that profile is saved. And in Chrome, it's something similar. A --profile -directory equals and the profile name, the named profile. And essentially you would set up, well, you'd have to create those profiles obviously first in the browser, profile, whatever you call it, and then profile, whatever. So you've got two created profiles. And then on your menu, you'd go and edit it and just add this to, after it says /user/bin Firefox or whatever, you'd add this to your path, or you'd add it as additional parameters to that. And that'll be the way that, and then just give it a suitable name as well, that it says maybe Firefox main, Firefox streaming, whatever you want to call it. When you click it, it's going to open it up using that profile. So it'll always have the same tabs, extensions, whatever that you've got for those particular profiles or that particular virtual desktop. And that is just one way of then having unique browser views that don't interfere with each other when you shut down or reboot. Then the other thing I just talked about was the activities. There's also some command line functions, and maybe, you can even set this up as icons or as quick scripts, that sort of thing. But it's one way of seeing what activities on KDE now, that is, are present, whether stopped running or whatever the case is, and you can start and stop them from the command line themselves. And I'll sort of just show that after I finish the slide. And then the other one really is that within Dolphin browser, you can also type activities : and you can actually see where the activity files are saved and their linked files as well, which is quite useful. So let me just come out of that and we can close this. I also wanted to show you, first of all, the activities listed. I think I've got it. There we go. So that's that same command, and you'll see it's showing here at the moment. We've got two running. We've got a running activity called gaming. We've got a current activity, which is main, and we've got another running activity called recording. And that is the ID, and this stays the same through reboot sessions, whatever the case is. So you can set up scripts or links for this. If you wanted to stop recording, for example, remember down here is recording. So got one set up there, stop activity. You'll see that is the, that is the ID over there. If I click that, just watch down here for recording, and you'll see recording is closed. If we go to that status again, you'll see there it shows there is something called recording, but it has been stopped. You can do the start, and you'll see it's popped up here again. That's how quickly it restores. And again, if you go look at the status, you'll see there it is, and recording is running. So it's as quick as that to suspend something and restart an activity. I love activities. Actually, I'll probably be using activities because I've got the KDE desktop. And then the other thing I just wanted to show quickly was, I suppose if I click there, so you'll see if I click on that application down here, I'm in which view? There we go. I just wanted to show you that if you type in activity : up there, might be a small activity, I don't know, takes you straight to, it's activities. Yes, there we go. Activities. It takes you, there's a special place in your home directory, but this is like a shortcut to get you to it. And you'll see there, it instantly shows you, those are your three named activities you've got. And that's obviously the current activity, but you could, we are in recording at the moment. You could go into gaming, and there were the files that I talked about. You don't have to drag and drop them into here. It does that automatically. So if you go anywhere else and you pick a file and you right click on it and you say here, link to, what are we in gaming at the moment? If I had to click there, well, better not do it because I think it might be my recording file. But if you do it anywhere else, you'll actually see it appearing in over here. And essentially, this filtered view up here is sort of a snapshot of that. That's where it's getting it from. So yeah, that is really sort of virtual desktops, workspaces, and KDE activities in a sort of a nutshell. I know it may sound a bit confusing. You know, maybe best to just replay the video again and sort of watch it slowly. I've really tried to consolidate what I've learned in the last 7 or 8 days. And I've literally spent every day on this. And every day I've been learning new things about activities and virtual desktops. There is that much to know about it. And it's possibly also why everybody's not really using it. You know, you're either an organized person or you're not. And if you want to get organized, well, virtual desktops and activities is absolutely the way to go, even if you're on Windows or Mac. And you just need to spend a little bit of time getting to know how they work and what you can do. Don't do both together. You know, if you're on KDE, just do activities or virtual desktops. The others, you know, you don't have to worry. Get to know them and get a feel for how you can use them and what you want to maybe use them for. It's not necessary to have 10 different things spread out and make it as busy as anything. Start off with just 2 virtual desktops and start practicing just switching between the two and how do you separate your activities and sort of take it from there. I'm certainly going to start using them more now. I totally ignored activities before because I didn't understand them. And I saw too many videos just showing 1, 2, 3, that's how you do it, but not really explaining what's different about them and virtual desktops. So as I say, I hope that has made some sense. It's unfortunately condensed a lot of information into a very short video. So I know it might appear a little bit confusing to many. I'm sorry about that. But I hope that for some of you, it's sort of shed a glimmer of a light and maybe you see some way that you can make use of these things. And if you do, let me know. I'd be interested to know how many of you do actually use it and what you're using it for and what you found interesting. And also, is there something maybe that I've missed in the video that you thought like, wow, that's so obvious and why didn't he mention that? I'd love to know because it may be something I can use as well. By the way, just as a matter of interest, these JavaScript things over here, wow, this was a mission. I did get them to appear only in one virtual desktop. So as I switch, you'll see they don't appear in my other virtual desktops. They were originally, because Java was a particularly difficult thing to have to figure out. How I had to get it done in the end was I had to switch on the window titles and what do you call it? The window titles and borders or whatever. Then right click on each one of these individually and say only desktop 1. And I think I had to do the same for the application that was down in the taskbar as well. Then switch it all off again. And so that I could get this nice view because I can do it with the titles and the borders on, but it's very messy and takes up a lot of space on the desktop. But it is possible to do it for Java apps as well. You just got to play around enough to get it to work. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, and as I said, I hope you did enjoy some of it. And stay safe out there, and I'll see you in my next video.